Welcome back, beautiful souls. I am so grateful and honored to hold space for our latest guest, Sarah Alysse Bobo. She is a stress management consultant who is helping companies and individuals find solutions, so SOUL solutions to optimize their life and business. She's the founder and CEO of Live Well, Enhance You, helping her clients create balance, out of the box solutions, as well as incredible leadership events. She's been featured on nationally syndicated show The List, and she's the host of the Stress Free Solutions podcast that has been promoted on Us Weekly, BuzzFeed, Business Insider, and so many more places. So, Sarah Alysse, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to dig in with you.
I'm so excited to be here, Christina. This means so much to me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I know the question as people are leaning in, you being, the stress management queen, like that is your MO, right?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are like, first of all, how do I recognize if I am experiencing stress? And this is even a question for myself, because I think sometimes I'll be, go, go, go. I'll be in that hustle culture. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize I was like really stressed today. So I'd love to even tackle what are some signs that people are experiencing stress that they might not even realize they're experiencing it?
Yeah, for sure. There's a bunch of different things. And I like to think of anything that you're doing excessive. So if
Mhm.
you're being excessive in working out, if
Mm.
you're eating emotionally and you're catching yourself eating emotionally, if you are tending to pack your schedule kind of to delay working through some of your feelings that are going on in your body or in your mind or even in your spirit, then those are probably signs that you are stressed. So anything that you're doing to excess is definitely a sign you're stressed.
I really like that. I noticed I was trying to spiritually bypass my third miscarriage that I had. And I was like, I'm just gonna, I found myself actually like comfort eating, wanting to throw on Netflix. I don't even really watch TV, but I was like trying to almost spiritually bypass it. So that's
Yeah.
a really interesting way to think about stress. I haven't thought about it that way. So I literally spent this last weekend just like feeling all the emotions and like actually letting myself go there. And I feel like a different woman on the other side. And so I love that example of just noticing if you're doing something in excess, you could be stressed. I think that's really powerful to start to recognize that in, our life in all the different ways that we do that.
Definitely. It's something I've heard for many years. Like I had people that were planning for an event, like getting married or having a baby. And what they were doing too much of was everything because they felt they needed to do all the things. They're like, well, I can't be stressed because I'm accomplishing my to-do list. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, that's interesting. Let's dig deeper into that. And we kind of found out why all those feelings were coming up for them. And the underlying thing was they were truly stressed.
So true. So true. Especially, I think this is really powerful knowing we're in this collective culture of like hustle, like get the to-do list done. It means you're more worthy. People love you more. All these stories that I experienced when I was younger. It was like, do more and people love you more. And it was like, so I just like brought that into adulthood and I was like, why does this feel so bad? And then it was like, when I had a baby, I'm like, well, something's got to give and it's not going to be my baby and it's not going to be my mental sanity anymore. So I think that's really powerful to start to recognize how that shift can really occur. And so for
Mm-hmm.
the people that are like, great, I'm totally overbooked. I am definitely stressed out. What are some ways for, let's say, business owners to start to manage their stress? So maybe if there's like certain exercises or modalities or even just some things that you do that help to manage stress with all the hats that we're wearing.
Yeah. So there's three different areas that I focus on with anyone new to my world, and it's to connect, to enrich their souls.
Mm.
So there's the mind, the body, and the spirit that oftentimes work by themselves, and we don't even realize they're not connecting. Nothing is gelling. So I love to focus on the very first thing is in the mind, creating a sanctuary space.
Mm.
Now, this could be a physical space, or you could actually go into a mental oasis. Like I picture for me being on a beach reading a book, and then that's where I find the most calm. So whenever I'm feeling extremely stressed, I go to that place. I take a good 5, sometimes even 10 minutes to just let myself be in that calming environment. And then my nervous system like completely relaxes. So then I'm ready to do whatever hard thing I was supposed to be doing a good 10 minutes later versus forcing myself in the need to do that.
And it really grounds you and helps you come up with creative solutions for the thing that you're doing. Like I
Yeah.
find if I just keep going, sometimes I'm like, I just totally half-assed that, or I just like, or I just like feel even more stressed out. It's like, even though I did the thing, I still have 50 more things. But taking that mental break, like you said, in your mind's eye, or like clearing your space, clearing the clutter in both spaces internally and externally, can really ground you back into the present and have you come up with creative solutions on how to move forward. And usually in a faster way or a more aligned way, that it's like, wow, that didn't take as much energy as I thought it would because I grounded myself right before it.
Totally. And sometimes people need something to attain physically so that they can calm down. So, like for me, I have a candle like just resting at my desk, and it brings me to that mental oasis spot of the beach. So that if I am needing to ground myself before a big call or, a tough conversation, I light that candle in that sanctuary area and I get through whatever stress I'm feeling through that. So that's helpful too. If it's hard for you to just think about the mental oasis, find maybe a smell or a sound that really calms you down too, that you can go to.
Absolutely. I do find when we bring in the five senses, when we're going into our mind's eye, even if like one externally, we have the smell of the candle, or you're holding on to a seashell or something that just reminds you of that space. And even in our mind's eye, I know with my clients, what I'll do is when I take them into exercises, I actually have them go to a beach and interact with the sand, feel the granules between your fingers. What are you hearing? Are you hearing the birds? So they're really immersed in that experience. And if you connect to your five senses, you are so much more dropped in and grounded, even in your mind's eye. So yeah, do it externally and internally. It's really powerful.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's the mind. What do you do for the body and the spirit? Are there different things that you do?
Yeah. For body, going back with an S again is singing. I love singing. I'm a musician, but when I was a child, my parents told me I sang like alfalfa from the festival.
Love it.
So, but you know what? They never told me to stop. They did tell me though, like, oh, you kind of sound like alfalfa. I didn't really recognize that until later on. But then I wanted to learn how to sing. And then I started developing all these tools. Now, singing has now become more of a vessel for me to get my voice heard. Yeah. And how I introduce this is go into the shower, go into a car, belt your little heart out. When you start to connect to your vocal box, what it's doing, it's releasing that tension and that struggle that we have with, letting our voice just roar and be heard. And what I have found is my clients are able to go and ask for that promotion, or they're able to sell a product better because they're able to just let their voice be heard and try new things because it's fun for them now. Singing makes it accessible. So I really recommend singing. And even if you're not the best singer, and then find a place where you feel comfortable, and maybe you'll be at a karaoke bar in no time, like letting your voice out. So
I love that. In the shamanic sense, they still do, I'm sure, for the people that come to the shamans that are like, I'm depressed, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed. They ask them multiple questions. When was the last time you sang? When was the last time you danced? When was the last time you laughed? And a lot of times people are like, I can't remember. And it's like, that's your medicine. Take it home and then come back to me in a week and see if you still need my services, And so I think there's so much power in that, of just laughing, using your vocal box. What's that, by the way? I was so curious when you said that.
Oh, the vocal box?
Yeah. Oh, the vocal box. I thought you said backs. And I was like, is that like a musical theater term? Okay. That makes more sense. Vocal box. Absolutely.
I have a Jersey accent, so
I love it. Okay. That makes complete sense though, because it's true. It's almost like you're letting it out of the box. You know what I mean? Like you think about, like they call it the vocal box, but like like to release that, to not have it confined anymore. Like your energy center, your throat chakra expands way beyond what's physically quote unquote there. And
Yes.
so to release that, to sing, I'm in total agreement of like dropping into your body, singing for me. It's a game changer. If I'm stressed and I'm singing, then I'm like, never mind, I'm good, feel better
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting too because there's the gut and brain connection that I'm such a big fan of. And it's stimulating your vagus nerve too, that
Yes.
runs
Yeah.
all the way down. So you're doing something beautiful for your body and your health too.
Mm, powerful. So tell us about the spirit. How do you bring in the soul?
Yeah. So it's interesting because we talk about self care a lot, but there's something that I love to focus on, and it's spiritual self care. And it's
Mm,
more about being in the present moment. And, you know, we set these wonderful, gifts for ourselves, whether that is maybe we are treating ourselves to a massage or a pedicure, or we're going on a nature walk, like, or a hike, fitness class, right? We do all these things for ourselves, but what we're not doing, we're setting them. We're not actually experiencing them. So
mm,
what I talk about is set intentions before you go into that massage. Are you actually going to enjoy the massage because you're so tense?
mhm.
Take a few breaths, breathe, find your true inner being and say, hey, I want to relax, or the goal today is releasing the tension out of my body. Whatever that may be, it's going to be much more beneficial than, oh, on to the next thing of my checklist for the day or the next activity, because we're not then enjoying the experience. And then we're almost wasting not only our money, but our time.
Mhm. I love that. The simplicity of like when we can set an intention before we do something, it's like adding so much energy and fuel to the thing that we're doing also. Like from that spiritual sense, from an energetic perspective,
Yeah.
we're like, let me actually intend on how this energy is moving for me in the direction of what I'm manifesting. So I love that you're giving it a purpose of not just like being here, but like actually drop in. Let me really like set the intention for why I'm even here in the first place. That's really powerful. And so it really does get it all connected. And you're not exactly, as you were saying, wasting your time or your money. You're really like intentionally dropping in. So I
Yeah.
think that even reminds us, like, on a soul perspective, I even ask my soul to drop down into my body. That's kind of what an intention does. Like, let's come together. Let's have my
Yep.
mind, body, and spirit be in this experience together, and not like a disembodied experience where it's like I had the massage and then I'm like thinking about my to-do list, right?
Yeah.
Be here for it. Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been guilty of going for a pedicure and not really, you're getting a massage on your legs, your feet,
Yes.
and I'm like doom scrolling,
Yes.
catching myself. Why am I doing that? I should just be in that, breathe, like let that back massage chair do its magic
Yeah.
and, engage with your senses, everything around you. Like it's so important to just be present and enjoy the
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. I'm hearing so much of what you're saying is like bring your senses into the experience.
Yeah.
Like, I think we've kind of, especially with how much information we're being given all the time, whether it's like ads or, scrolling or, just people texting, all the things that we didn't have before. Like, if we can interact with our five senses and be really clear on, like, how does this taste? How does this
Mhm.
feel? What am I actually hearing? That allows us to actually drop into the moment of like really being there. So we're a lot more intentional with our time altogether. That's why I have no notifications turned on, but that when I drop into my text messages, you have me with both feet. I'm not doing the center
Yeah.
splits, trying to be a mom and text at the same time. I'm like, I've got 30 minutes and I'm going to completely dedicate to connecting with my friends right now. Right. And
Right.
so that's my time where I really drop in. So it's a different level of communication versus when I'm just like halfway doing it, halfway this, halfway
Yeah.
that, it's different because I'm there. I'm like
Mhm.
physically in there. I'm like connecting to the message that they're sending me, right? Like I'm
Exactly.
really seeing it and like being there. So yeah, I think absolutely. And when we bring our five senses in, I do feel like our sixth sense starts to come online even more too, because we're
Mhm.
present. And then our
Yeah.
intuition starts to come online so we can receive the messages, like
Yep.
you were saying, from a spiritual perspective versus if we're kind of disembodied, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, really powerful. So one of the questions I was going to ask you was about this idea of like, I know you have this musical theater background. Is there anything else that musical theater has done to support you and your clients? I know singing is really powerful and important, and it's allows us to really connect to and release stress, but it's got to be from like a confidence perspective too. Like you think about taking the stage, there's got to be some things that you learned there that has to have
Yeah.
been really supportive for people that are stepping into keynote speeches or event planning or giving, standing in front of hundreds or thousands of people to share their message. How has musical theater played a role in how you support yourself and your clients?
Yeah. Well, with musical theater, you had to be a triple threat. You had to sing, dance, and act.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I did a lot of yes anding, so a lot of improvisation work.
Mhm.
And that's something that I've taken actually into the corporate world. And it's been so beneficial because community and communications is really thriving now in those work environments. But for someone that's just starting to, tap into their intuition, it's like moving their bodies, like what you were saying, dance, so important.
Yes.
So important. But also that idea of like a power pose, getting used to feeling confident, sitting up nice and tall, singing, yes, but then also taking that a step further. And it's like using your voice to not necessarily get what you want, but get your voice known to whoever that person is that maybe you're trying to get in the next career position, or you're trying to make a sale to a prospect. Like you need to be your most confident self. And sometimes you have to act as if to get to that point. And so that's where the acting comes into play.
I love that. Yeah. Of like the triple threat, like you were saying, but also that the improvisation, like it's not everything's going to go to plan. In fact, lots of things don't. And so to be able to be quick on your feet is a really powerful skill to have. So I could definitely see how that would be really empowering to just be like, and let's, shift. And I think you'd have to be really embodied and in the moment to be able to, quickly lean in and create that shift through improv or in life or in the office, right? To be like, I'm fully present and I'm aware that this shifted, and how can we find a creative solution based on the new information that I have? That makes sense. Yeah.
Definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So you're a new mother.
Yes.
And you're also a business owner, right? So how are you managing, the stress and the overwhelm, if you're experiencing that? If it was anything like mine, if you're experiencing that, how are you managing, these two roles plus all the other roles that we are as well, friend, partner, all of these things? How are you managing all of that?
Yeah. So interesting you say that, because I feel gotten a lot more vocal. So I've had to express my needs because I can't do everything I used to do.
Yes.
Right. Like I have a podcast, I have a husband, I have my business, my clients, our parents, the communication between everything and everyone can be so overwhelming. And so I do tap into my intuition. I use my Enricher Soul system to kind of help me through it. But what it comes down to is just saying, this is what I can do for today, and I'm okay with that. And that way I'm not judging myself. I'm not putting myself into an overwhelmed state all the time. I can meet myself where I am today by just saying that this is okay. I can do what I'm doing right now, and that's okay.
I got in the habit of doing that at the end of the day too, because I noticed when I was like getting ready for bed, I'd be like, oh, there was like these 5 other things I meant to do today. And then I would immediately kind of interrupt that thought and be like, I did the best that I could to do today, and that's enough. Like I did the best that I could, and that gets to be enough. Like I don't have 48 hours in a 24-hour period. Like that gets to be enough. And the stuff that gets to wait will wait, and it's okay. We're not meant to, work 24 hours a day. Like we're meant to be present as mothers. We're meant to be present as partners. Like we're meant to be all the things. And we didn't drop into life to just work. even though the culture sometimes will tell us the opposite. Our soul did not drop into this body to just experience work and success. Our soul dropped in this to experience motherhood, if that's what our soul desired,
Yeah.
being a partner, being in love, being in a disagreement, and how to move through that, soul expanding through all these portals. And so, yeah, I love that, of just like the conscious awareness of what's the internal dialogue and how can I redirect it and say, like, one, I need help here. And two, what I did today was enough.
Yeah. And when something I have though, I will admit though, something that's difficult, but I have to do is move my body
Mhm.
because you probably feel this way too. You're sitting at a chair and then that's the majority of your work is here and you forget about all the other things. So even though I have to do work for my business, I'm also adding 10 minutes of core work because that's essential for me right now. Or 20 minutes of strength training. And I just make sure that every day I'm doing something for my body because it makes me feel better.
Mhm.
And because I was getting text
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, yeah, horrible, and lifting the baby all the time, right?
Mhm.
And so I was starting to feel pain every single day. It was making me more tired and more irritable. And I was like, this has got to stop. Like, this is important. I'm putting this first, and then everything else will kind of fall into place. So I reduced some of my work because I needed to add on some movement for my body.
Mm, absolutely. It's so interesting. I've channeled, like, the body is telling the story of the soul, and Louise Hay
Mm,
has a book about that. And it's like, how cool that your body was, as you were experiencing pain, it was actually telling you, like, you don't need to do all the things that you used to do. You actually have a whole new thing that's taking up a lot of your time, the baby, right? And
yeah,
the love for your child and the presence you want with her, right? And so your
exactly.
body was telling you, like, hey, what you're doing right now, trying to do both like the way you did it before and copy paste here, isn't working. So it's so
Yep,
cool how the body will actually tell us these things. It might not feel good in the moment, but it gets our attention. That's for sure.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah. I've really had to listen more into my body because it just doesn't feel good when I'm just sitting down and, I'm nursing another being. And that's another
Mhm.
thing. Like that takes up so much energy. And I feel that's something they don't talk about much. Or if you're bottle feeding your baby, it's taking a lot of time because you need to connect with your baby in that moment. You
Mhm.
can't aimlessly be doing other things. Like
Mhm.
this is a private, special moment for your child and you to have bonding. And
Mhm.
so that's why I've felt like my body was even telling me more things of what I needed to do because it's
Mhm.
experiencing that with her.
Absolutely. Those moments are so sacred when you're feeding them. Those are some of my, if I could bottle up heaven on earth, it would be feeding my son. Like, I don't know what it is, or I'm just
Mm.
like, "Meh," like mush,
Yeah.
just thinking about, like, oh, like he's so nourished and I'm so grateful, There's
Yeah.
just something about, they're so innocent and so precious, and that you get to support them in that way of giving them life. It's just so powerful. Words
It's so
can't describe
wild
it.
to me too. You see then how they
Yeah.
get bigger and stronger and it's all from your milk. And there's something about that too that's just
Yes. Right. I mean, it's
empowering.
so empowering and intimate and precious. And
Yes.
yeah, those times, if there was any sort of wake up call that I had in my life, that was a big one, becoming a mother, where
Mm,
it was like, ooh, this has got me present to everything that really matters. And I
yeah,
don't have time for all the stuff that doesn't anymore. I just don't have
exactly.
time for it. I'm just going to
Yeah.
release it. If it's meant to be, it will stay. And if it's not, then it won't.
Yeah.
That gets to be okay. Yeah.
I'm curious for you, did you feel that any drama that might have happened before you had a kid, like
Mhm.
you didn't care about it as much because you had a whole nother life to take care of?
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
was really interesting. I felt like a lot of things shifted, even like friendships. It was very interesting, of people that either didn't have children or maybe didn't get it, didn't have a business. And not that people have to have the same things to get it, but I was noticing people were wanting more from me than I could give. And I was
Mm,
like, I can't meet you there. And so you're either going to stay and be okay with that, or that's okay. Like, our season is complete. And it was like a huge grieving period in my life where, some relationships fell out of alignment,
yeah.
and ones that I never thought would do that So it was really difficult. I'm positive on both sides. But at the end of the day, it was like, I have to honor this season. I have to honor that I need
Yeah.
more energy. I have to honor that I have to show up for my baby. And I'm not going to choose anyone over my baby at this point
Hmm.
ever. So I think
Right.
that was a big thing too. That was like, well, wait a minute. I've always been the number one. What's happening? And it was like, yeah, I know. And I love you. And I've got this baby that like actually physically, spiritually, emotionally needs me. So
Yep.
yeah, there was a lot that shifted through before pregnancy, or during pregnancy, after the baby was born, and then, that first year, it's its own portal and initiation. And so, but yeah, I just wasn't buying into any of the crap outside of myself, like any of the drama. I'm like, yeah, I don't have time for that. That's not mine. You guys can figure it out on your own. I love you. Bless and release.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like that. Bless and release. That's good.
Yeah, it's not mine. And I love you. I'm still sending you love. It doesn't mean I don't love you, but I'm not going to figure this out for you anymore. I think that was a big mirror I
Mhm.
had was I was trying to do the work for other people. And I realized I'm sure there was like some worthiness in that I moved through where it was like, if I do this, then you'll love me more. You need me. And it was like something I healed. But then I realized, oh, wait, I don't have time to do the work for you and me. I have
Right.
like a baby now and a business, and it set both of us free because now that gave that person the opportunity to learn how to do it themselves. And it gave me the opportunity to realize I don't need to save someone for them to be in my life. They'll
Right.
be in my life if they're meant to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm curious. I know we had talked about you went through a big spiritual awakening when your dad passed away. So
Mhm.
I'm curious first, how did you get through that experience? Because I know we all will experience that at some point if we haven't already in some capacity, grief, right? That experience. One, how did you move through the grief? Because I think so many people move like every minute is different, every hour is
Yeah.
different, every day is different. But if there was anything that you felt like supported you through that experience, and two, what did that spiritual awakening look like? But let's start first with how you navigated that.
Well, I do feel every year is different. And every year I have learned something new about
Mhm.
his passing.
Yeah.
I've discovered, like the very first year, I discovered that my dad and I were so similar, like
Mm.
twins, in the sense that we handled our emotions the same. We would bottle it and
Mm.
then store it away in a closet, like those
Mhm.
photograph box. I probably
Yes.
had a stack of those in two
Yes.
closets,
Uh-huh.
and it was all filled with this emotional energy because I felt I wasn't worthy
Mm.
to emotionally express what I was feeling because I had no right, or that
Mm.
person might judge me. Like I was going through this vicious cycle of feeling like not enough. So that was a huge connector for me because over time growing up, I saw my dad have splitting headaches and
Mm.
he would be out for the whole Sunday, or I just would catch him emotionally eating late at night and
Mhm.
watching TV in the basement. And I'll be like, that's interesting. And then I'd catch myself doing that in my late 20s a
Mhm.
lot.
Totally.
And that was also how I dealt with my emotions too. I would go and get a bag of flaming hot Cheetos and eat
Mhm.
the whole bag in one sitting. And it was very challenging for me to recognize that. But then it made me realize, like, for my dad, for, you know, my future kids and general, to reduce this trauma or get rid of it completely, I needed to do something. So I signed up for the Integrative Institute of Nutrition and I did their certification health coaching program. Didn't think I was going to be a health coach, fitness trainer, happy for years. But I was like, wow, there are so many areas of my life that I didn't realize were out of whack.
Mm.
And I was able to figure out ways to implement strategies that made me feel better significantly. So the very first thing I did was start cooking at home
Mm.
and challenging myself to use ingredients that maybe I hadn't before. I was from Wisconsin, so meat and potatoes. And then before that, New Jersey. So similar thing, meat and potatoes. Like that was how I was raised, and then a vegetable on the side.
Mm.
So I started to cook more for myself, and it felt amazing to provide myself sustenance in a positive way. So I
Mhm.
was connecting to myself spiritually through food. And
Yeah.
then I started to move differently. I started to take different kinds of classes, like myofascial release, meditation courses. I started to tap more into my singing again because I lost that love when my dad passed away.
Mhm.
And I started singing at speakeasy. So it was like a whole spiritual awakening in that regard because I was able to do things that I didn't realize I could do with the home cooking, and B, I didn't realize I was neglecting because I was so sad.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, pain and grief is such a portal for, it's so difficult when we're in it, and sometimes it's never over. There's always like a different iteration or a different memory or something that comes through where we're like, "Ooh," and there's more to process, but it's such a portal. I have to say, like, my deepest shifts, my biggest spiritual awakenings have happened through grief. And
Mm,
so it's so interesting how that happens. And I think the big message is for anyone who's experiencing that to just know that it's a portal for a deepening and an expanding into potentially more of you, right? Like,
yeah.
what advice would you give to someone who might be grieving or going through an experience like this?
I think it comes back to going to your five senses and
Mhm.
then tapping into that sixth as
Mhm.
well. But start with your five and ask yourself really hard questions like,
Yeah.
am I really hearing what is going on around me? Am I
Mhm.
letting other people affect me? Am I seeing what's in front of me? Because sometimes we look everywhere else to solve our problems, but we're not actually seeing the situation that's right there hitting us smack in the face.
Mm.
And feeling your feelings. I was one of those people that won't let others in, so I wasn't a hugger, I wasn't a kisser like
Mhm.
with friends. And that's something that has changed now. I hug, I really embrace, I enjoy it,
Mhm.
and just enjoying all the little things in general. And that's something I want to pass on to my little. So it's so important that we're aware of what's actually going on
Mhm.
around us and through us.
Yeah. It's so true. The more emotionally available we are for ourselves, the more we can be for other people. So you were talking about, you had this, you know, big stacks in the closet of emotions that you weren't letting yourself process. And then you, through this spiritual awakening, were like, that doesn't work for me anymore. I have to process in a different way because I'm stuffing it down. Very, very similar to me, stuffing it down with food. Mine then manifested into bulimia. So it was like the
Mhm.
both and, where it's like, I don't want to feel it, but I also don't want to hold on to it. So it was the both
Right.
and. And so that was me realizing I had my stack of papers and emotions that I needed to process. And then once you do that and you start to realize like there's so much freedom on the other side, you can hold the space for your big emotions. You can let them move through you because there's wisdom underneath them. And then
Mhm.
you can be emotionally available for other people. You lean in for the deep hugs. You can let yourself really experience that kiss with your partner or your baby or whoever it is. And so that's so powerful, is just to be there for, like you were saying, those five senses. So the sixth sense can come online and to really lean in to yourself
Mhm.
so that you can lean into others. So powerful.
Yeah. And what's interesting too, I think this will be really helpful for your listeners. When you do tap into these, then all of a sudden, what might come online is a spiritual connection again with your loved one.
Mm.
So, when my husband proposed to me, it started to rain,
Mm.
and it felt like tears of joy,
Mm.
and I felt my father in that presence. And then it stopped. Like literally after he proposed, then it rained, then it stopped. And then we had a beautiful dinner outside with our families joining together. And it just was like, wow, I felt approval. Like he
Yeah.
didn't get to meet my husband, but I felt that there was approval and joy behind it. And because my dad was just, he was such a lover, and he would cry whenever I would step on stage for a musical theater or a play or whatever singing gig I was in. And he would just have so much joy. And we felt that again while we were checking out venues when we decided where we wanted to get married. That same day, it was started to pour at the location we really wanted. And then it stopped when we exited the doors to look at the actual venue. And I was like, that was another sign, and I never had been like that before, spiritually connected like that until those moments.
So true. I got body chills for you on both of those signs. So 100% the channel within me is validating what you experienced. And that is so true. That grief for me has opened up my spiritual connection like nothing else has. And it's amazing. You get the signs, you get the validation, you start to realize, wait, my relationship isn't ending. It's just changing form. They're still communicating. They're still with me. And they're just communicating through a different way. And so yeah, there's absolutely something to be said about it. 100% was such a catalyst. And every time I've experienced grief, it opened me up to, oh my goodness, there's like a whole other thing at play here that I can now connect to because I want to. It's like, we don't have any desire to connect to the other side. We won't do it. But until we're like, wait, if I could have one more conversation, if I could just have the validation and we receive it, then we're like, oh, that's all I needed. And ask for signs. That's a big thing too. I think sometimes we're like waiting for them. So I'll do an exercise where I'll say, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about a sign that I desire to receive from my spirit baby, like the one that's coming in. And then it'll be the first thing that pops in my head, sea turtles or a ladybug or whatever it is. Or maybe it's a number or something specific. Follow that. Don't question it and start to notice it coming through in different ways. For you, it's rain. Right. And so it's like every time it rains and I get the intuitive hit and I feel it in my body, that's my dad popping in to validate what I'm experiencing or what I'm choosing into, the partner, the venue. Right. And so I can't tell you how many sea turtles I've seen since this has happened and all the ladybugs that I've seen. Both of those were signs. And it's like every time I get body chills because I'm like, okay, that's the validation I needed just to know that they're still with me, that baby's still coming, or that baby is communicating through me to me in different ways. So if you're listening in and you're like, I want to connect to the other side, ask for a sign and the first thing that pops into your mind, let that be it. And then just go about living your life. And then you'll start to notice it in really cool ways. I guarantee it. It's the coolest thing.
Kristen, I got to tell you too, as soon as we started talking about my dad, it did start raining outside.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah. I was like, that's crazy. Like, it's never happened in an interview before. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I'm in Florida now. It is tropical, but it hadn't been raining all day. And it chose this hour.
Of course. The validation from your dad and for everyone that's listening, like that is your validation from the spiritual realm that they want to communicate with us. They're here. They're right next to you. They want to send you signs, but you just have to be embodied in our five senses enough to notice, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? Am I hearing the buzz of the ladybug? Am I seeing, the rain happening? Like those things, they matter. And so when we're embodied, like you were saying at the very beginning, we can actually witness and experience the signs. And that's the connection to the sixth sense too.
Definitely.
So powerful. So powerful. So I would love to know, so there's the 5 ways to reduce your stress. There's this free course that you want to gift to anyone who's listening in. So powerful. Tell us about what it is and how it can support them.
Yeah. So what I love about this, you'll be getting an email every single day for 5 days, and it's going to talk about mindfulness, give you some tips on how to do that. Nurturing healthy relationships is day 2. The 3rd day, you'll be focusing on creative expression for stress relief. Now, guys, I'm big into musical theater, obviously, but there's so many different ways to kind of tap into your creativity. And when you do that, all of a sudden, too, your stress reduces. It just calms your whole nervous system down, similar to that sanctuary space, but like actually physically doing something, whether that's playing the piano or painting a picture, can really help reduce the stress. So I have a whole day on that. And then day 4 is about balancing your work and life. And then 5 is resilience, building it. How can you actually build resilience in your everyday life?
Straight to your inbox, like lifelong tools that you can use for the rest of your life. Once you know them, you won't forget them, and you'll be able to call on them when you are experiencing stress. I always say, like, set yourself up for success before the stress happens so that when you do experience it, you've got the tools to lean into. Because if we're stressed, it's hard to find the creative solution in the moment. Set
Exactly.
yourself up ahead of time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful. Mm. Well, thank you so much. I'm positive anyone who's leaning into that is going to experience something really powerful from that. Having those tools is needed before we experience the stress so that when we do, we're like, oh, I have like a saving grace. So thank you
Totally.
so much for being here. I'm positive that everyone who is listening in is going to want to connect with you. So where are you hanging out? How can they lean in even
Yeah.
further?
So couple of different places at Sarah Elise Coaching. DM me. I'm the one that goes through my DMs every single day on Instagram. If you're a LinkedIn person, Sarah Elise Bobo is where you can find me. Otherwise, I have a Stress Free Solutions podcast. We're now in the top 2%, I found out, which is exciting.
Love it.
So we are just moving and grooving every day. We have all different guest experts, including Christina. She's going to be on there. So I'm really excited. And yeah, so check it out and then connect. Take that free course and run with it. Get those tools. We all need them. It just will help you shine brighter in your everyday life.
Which we could all use. Like
Yeah.
we've been dimming our lights for way too long. It's time to let ourselves deeply shine. So, Sarah Elise, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you sprinkled into the space. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful for everyone that is tuning in that received something really magical. Feel free to take a screenshot, tag both of us. We love knowing what your biggest takeaways are. It helps us create more for you. That's the only reason why I'm creating is because I'm like, I already know all the things in my mind's eye, but if I know what you desire, it helps me know and create more and more that's in alignment with you. So let us know. It really does impact what we're creating for you. So thank you again so much for tuning in, for giving us your most precious resource, your time, and we will talk to you soon.